everyone, and welcome to It's All Goodall right here on Rebellious Ufology. I'm Lynn Wallington, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Mr. Jim Goodall. How are you,
And
Jim?
I'm delighted to be here, and we're off and running. It should be an interesting hour or two.
I think so too, right?
Yeah.
We got
Yep.
some fun
Yep.
stuff. We got a couple people in here. Let's say hi to them. Justin, how are you? How's the you? Yeah, it was a great conference. Thank you so much for asking. I would never ever grill Jim, never, because he could talk circles around me.
Yeah.
So,
And I probably wouldn't taste very good. Grill, I mean, talk. I thought maybe put me over a barbecue, 59 minutes to go. Okay.
Yes, Vicky was here early. She was here bright and early. Hi, Vicky. Hello, Vera Ray. Oh, I missed you guys too. It was so weird being away on Friday. Hey, Paul. Good morning, because Paul is in Australia.
I love Australia. I have a friend who lived in the Sydney area at Little Bay.
Yeah.
And I went and spent 3 weeks in Sydney. And if I was a young man, and single, I would be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Or maybe a lot of heartbeats, because it's 16 or 17 hours from here.
It's
the other side. It's the other side of the planet.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't ever been there, but I've always wanted to go.
It is, other than the fact they drive on the wrong side of the road. Sydney is a beautiful city. It's like America was maybe back in the 50s and early 60s before things got too crazy.
Nice.
They have freeways underground. I mean, there's intersections underneath the city of Sydney.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a soft sandstone that allow them to do that, but my dear friend Fred May, he and his wife lived there for about 15 years now.
Wow.
And they just absolutely love the area. And I went to Cambria. I went to the Australian War Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was with Museum of Flight in Seattle for 10 years, they gave me my card, and they took me into the back room and showed me stuff behind the scenes. Then we went over to the storage and restoration facility. That was fun.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful country. My only complaint is I have about $4,000 worth of cameras that are sitting on the bottom of Sydney Harbor.
Oh no! I
was on a friend of mine's sailboat, and he came about too fast. And this is a 45-foot sailboat, and all of a sudden I heard it sliding because it was way forward. I missed the strap by this much as I grabbed for it. And this is near the end of my 3-week trip, so all the photos and everything in there, and it just
no! So you lost it all. Oh my gosh, that sucks. That's the worst.
yeah.
Oh,
So
that's terrible.
Dog face boy.
Yes, that is Simon. Hi, Simon. Oh, your buddy's here. Sonny from Paranormal Chop Shop. Hey, Sonny. What's up?
How's it going?
Love Sonny.
You coming to Vegas for our gathering?
I don't know. I don't know if he is or not, but you guys are going to get to hang out, I hear, right?
Yeah, I'm the Monday after our gig in Las Vegas. We're going to probably go a marathon on the air again, like we did last time. And we went for 5.5 hours, pretty much nonstop.
That's so crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, we finished one after 3 hours, and he said, "Oh, there's another one." They said, "Asked us to come on board." Well, I got nothing else to do. Let's go. Yeah,
sit around and talk with everyone, right?
Yeah, so, and it was just really, really delightful. And
that's awesome.
It's the group of people in our group of people that I feel the most comfortable with.
Yeah,
and I just enjoy myself. And that includes everybody with one exception, but I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah.
And it's nobody that's been on this program or any of the other ones, but it's just some that I know from being around as long as I have.
Yeah. Well, we all have those people. We do. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But not Tommy. Hi, Tommy. So glad to see you here. Oh, Sonny gave you a shout out too. Look at that. Look at the applause. A big round of applause from Sonny. Hey, Fap, what's up? Yes, Jim is awesome. You are right. You are right. And Charlene, how are you? So nice to see you all. Oh my gosh, Akashi. I don't know if you know Akashi Chris. If not, you need to know her. She's awesome. She just started a new YouTube channel called Mind Forked, which is amazing.
Well, she can get hold of me, through you or through Dave
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
wherever. So I don't discriminate, and if there's any way of I can help someone get as being a guest,
Hmm.
get some momentum, I'm more than happy to do that.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure she would go crazy knowing her. She's
Yeah,
probably like, "Oh my gosh," right now. So,
yeah.
yes, Chris, I will get you in touch with Jim. Don't you worry. The I Believe podcast, they're another new podcast too. Hey guys. So great to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us. Let's see.
Is that a bong he has in his
It
hand?
may very well be.
Oh,
It may
okay.
very well be, yes.
Just checking. I mean,
Just
I'm sweet.
verifying that
I'm
that's
sweet.
enough.
I'm a sweet and innocent senior citizen. So, yeah. What can I say?
Hey, my flock, how are you? Oh, there we go. There's Akashi Chris's other. She's got both of them going on, I guess. That's so funny. Let's see. Oh, and Dorothy. Hi, Dorothy. So glad to see Jim Goodall tonight. Me too. Me too. Oh, I believe yes. He says yes, medical. It's medical. He's telling us.
I have one of
Okay.
I have one of those too, so it's okay.
Yes. Oh, she says yes in the car. Love Jim. All right. Well, you guys will have to have a conversation. So that is awesome. That'll be fun. Yeah, we'll get that worked out. So she's in the process of moving soon too. So
From
but
where from where to where?
I don't know. I think just moving houses. I don't know if they're moving towns, but I don't know. Let us know, Chris. Let us know.
Yeah.
Mm. So while we're waiting to find out about Chris's big move, so I wanted to my flock. Oh, are you not a wrench, my flock? Okay, hold on. Hold the phone, everyone. Hold on just a second. Let's make sure. Oh, hopefully this doesn't go. Okay, good. It is muted. Is it? Yeah. It's so weird because it's like behind. Um and like on YouTube. So when I go over there, all right, there you go. Now you're a moderator. When I go over there, I see myself talking, even though I'm not talking. Oh,
Oh,
no, she is moving from Texas to Oklahoma. All right.
have you been bad?
It's possible. It's very possible.
I mean, the Midwest, those people who live on the coasts or in the mountains, they really have no idea what flat really is.
Mhm.
I remember when I was stationed in Wichita Falls, Texas, at Shepherd.
Mhm.
We could look north and we could see thunderstorms 80 to 100 miles away.
Wow.
60,000-foot anvil clouds, and
Crazy.
and and Wichita Falls is right in what they call Tornado Alley.
Mhm.
So from suburbs to rural, yeah,
Mhm.
I would love if wasn't for the fact we already here and I'm retired, so I really don't want to take out a mortgage.
Mm.
I would have moved up to the Show Low Pine Top area of Arizona.
Oh,
It's a
yeah?
it's
Where's
a
that?
7th. I mean, I told myself I never wanted to shovel snow ever again because I spent 27 years of my life in not
Oh,
Alaska,
yeah.
Minnesota, 3 years in Alaska, and 3 years, 2.5 years in Denver,
Mhm.
and it's all good, all okay.
That's right. That's Amy, right? Alien Girl. I think you've been on her show. I think so, haven't you? Been on
uh,
Amy's show?
I I don't think so. I may have, but if I haven't, I forgot. I apologize.
She's
Um,
awesome too.
I've
She's
been
amazing.
it's so since about November. This has been a stressful time in my life, but things are looking up. Everything on that end of it is
Yeah.
uh, becoming healthy again. So
Yes.
all
And
is
that's what
well.
we want. That is what we want.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. So, what do you say, Jim? You can see my cat has some. That's hilarious. Dorothy's cat must have been walking on the
Oh,
keyboard. That's all. I was trying to figure out if that was like something that I was supposed to be able to read, but no,
yeah,
I gotcha. Yep, I had a cat who used to like to just come and lay on it. Luckily, he doesn't do that anymore, so
yeah.
that's good. So I said to Jim, I was like, Jim, you know what I want to talk about today? How about we talk about, just something light, advanced propulsion systems. But the reason is, so in my morning show, someone was talking about drones with ion propulsion systems, which I was just kind of like, what is going on here with this? So have you heard of this? And I know, and then I looked into it and it looks like there were some guys at MIT who've been trying to make a like a viable sort of plane that could use an ion ion propulsion system.
I know it would work in space because they have that capability right now.
Yeah.
How it would work in an air a manned air breathing platform, I don't know. The government, our government, by the people,
Yeah.
they've been playing with alternative fuel sources and propulsion systems forever.
Yeah.
I know the big thing that in Aviation Week and Flight Global, they're talking about electric airplanes or hydrogen-powered airplanes. And the thing about a battery-powered airplane, batteries do not create the energy. You have to have a source that creates the energy, and that energy comes from coal, nuclear, natural gas, or in some cases in the Pacific Northwest, water. The only one that doesn't pollute would be your dams and generating electricity that way.
Yeah.
And you put it into some type of storage device, and that's all it does. The battery doesn't create power. It's created somewhere else, or it's transferred from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because energy is constant. You're just taking energy from one source, and you're consuming energy to do it. So you bring in. So the thought that, well, this is going to be environmentally sound, where this is pollution free. No, you had a power plant had to generate the electricity.
Yeah.
You had to use trains to bring the coal into the power plant, or build a pipeline to bring the natural gas in. So it's not what everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, batteries are historically not that reliable. They can, especially your lithium ion. I've seen YouTube videos of phones catching on fire. I mean, literally, it looks like a welder's torch. All of a sudden, this thing is just flaring up. Then someone posted yesterday or day before yesterday of what's left of his house, because his electric car, the battery decided to go nuclear on him, and burnt down his garage and half his house. So, I mean, you can have a car blow up in a garage. Also, you can have a gas leak if your hot water heater's back there, and if it's not elevated per code, and that's only per code on new, stuff built in the last 25 years or so.
Yeah.
And you get pilot lights in there, and all of a sudden you have a gas leak, boom, or gasoline fumes from a car. Maybe you had a leak. Yeah. So you're going to have, not everything is safe, but, and then we have hydrogen as a power source. Now, the Air Force started dealing with hydrogen power with a program called Suntan. This goes back to the 50s, where they took, first of all, they started off with gaseous hydrogen. They modified a Martin B-57. It was a twin-engine light tactical bomber. And they put one of the engines was powered by gaseous hydrogen. And they were working towards one that was going to be using liquid hydrogen. And one of the problems with liquid hydrogen, of course, are the doors, the thermos bottles, so to speak, that where you store. And liquid hydrogen is 6 or 7 degrees Kelvin. And Kelvin is not some guy who lives in Burbank, but Kelvin is absolute zero. That's when all movement in an atom stops. And we've gotten within a few tenths of a degree of absolute zero when the electrons are really slowing down. But I don't think anybody knows exactly what would happen if we do hit absolute zero.
Yeah.
Whether the universe will collapse upon itself or whatever. So it's something that it's a process that has been kicked around for 60 or 70 years. I mean, and they had Lockheed, the Skunk Works was working on a program called the CL400. And most everything that's developed at the Skunk Works has a CL name, number or letter attached to it. It stands for Clarence L. Johnson, founder of the Skunk Works, Kelly.
Yeah.
And again, with liquid hydrogen or even gaseous hydrogen, you have to create it. So you're going to take typically natural gas or methane, and you're going to start compressing it and separating it. So it takes a tremendous amount of energy.
Yeah.
So, we have this airplane that's going to fly. It's pollution free and it's using no energy. No, the actual airplane isn't using more energy. But if you consumed a lot of energy creating the liquid hydrogen, and then you have to contain the liquid hydrogen. You have to store it. You have to transport it. Moving cryogenic liquids is a lot easier now than it was back in the 50s.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't think it's a viable option today.
Yeah.
I'm not privy to everything else they're working on. The only propulsion system that I know that is currently being worked on that it would be an alternative to either liquid or gaseous hydrogen or battery storage or fuel cell. You're still using fuel on a fuel cell. And anytime you start changing the state, born to fly 42, thank you. Anytime you start changing the state, you're using energy, and you're using energy to keep the liquid hydrogen or the batteries charged up.
Yeah.
And the only one out there that is really doing something unique that's you and I can see and hear about is the Lockheed Skunk Works.
Yeah.
They've been working for the last couple of years on what they called the compact fusion reactor. And the basics of it is they're going to use non-radioactive depleted uranium. And that's what I read into it.
Yeah.
It will fit into a 40-foot standard container, so it's air transportable anywhere. It requires no maintenance. The fuels, the fuel pellets cannot be used in a dirty bomb because they're basically inert.
Right.
I'm not sure how they do everything, but they've. When I did my 75 years of the Skunk Works book, that was one of the latest innovations that the Skunk Works working on. And the thing about the Lockheed Skunk Works, they bring in talent like you wouldn't believe. I mean, they have, if they're going to push the envelope, if anybody's going to push the envelope, it's going to be the men and women of the Lockheed Advanced Development Programs, also known as the Skunk Works.
Yeah.
But the goal on revision 5 is what was available for me to see when I did my book. Where they're at today, where they're heading towards is revision 8. By the time they get to revision 8, they feel that they should have most of the bugs taken out of it. Excuse me. And it will be able to power a town of 100,000 people.
Wow.
Now, if it can fit into a 40-foot container, it can fit into a wide-bodied airplane. You can reconfigure it so it looks like a gigantic pallet, or it's built into the airplane as you're building it, and you distribute the weight evenly, and you don't lose very much cargo area. You will not need fuel, so you're not going to worry about fuel tanks. So some of the equipment can be in the wings, and they've been developing some state-of-the-art electric motors that are incredibly efficient but incredibly powerful. And all they have to do is replace the turbine part of one of your 120-inch fans on it, say a Boeing 777. The electric motors would have to be probably smaller in size than the turbine, but the turbine's very, very small. When you look at a 747 or a 757, anybody who's using one of the new big turbo fans, and that's what they are. The engine part of it is relatively constant, and it's relatively small. And the fans are what actually gives the airplane the thrust and the power and the efficiency. So if you can eliminate the the turbine part of the propulsion system and replace it with it doesn't have to be like a motor, something that we haven't developed or they're developing that we don't know about,
Yeah.
or it could be super efficient motors.
Yeah.
They could fly indefinitely. You could fly around the world nonstop without using a drop of fuel.
That's
of course,
amazing.
you'd have to be dumping the toilets and making sure you had a lot of food on board because it'd be a long trip.
But, right.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So that's interesting. I wonder if. So when I was reading up on this ion propulsion system, it's fascinating actually. So basically, it all it takes is a battery that's filled with charged particles. That's all it takes. And it's powered, it says it's powered by electricity. So obviously there's got to be electricity involved, but basically they send particles or send, send whatever it is, energy of some sort through two electrodes with a high voltage like in between the two electrons, and that's going to create the charged particles or these ions. And then as the ions interact with the air, they force it out of the craft, whatever it is. I think they've only done it on a small craft, other than like we were saying out in space, they use it already, which is amazing. I didn't even realize this. But the problem was that because of Earth's gravitational force, it requires very heavy batteries in order to have this process work. So they were that was the big issue, is how do they make this work? Because the thrust wasn't powerful enough to compensate for the heavy battery in reaction to the Earth's gravitational pull. So, or gravitational force. So there's this team at MIT that they seem like they're kind of figuring it out a little bit. And they just received a grant from NASA to work on it, which is kind of cool. But I thought that was really interesting. But the nice thing is, and this was what made me think about this and why I wanted to talk about it. There's no exhaust, because the only thing that comes out are these charged particles. So when we look at these UFOs, right, or these UAPs that have no exhaust plume, maybe did somebody else already figure this out?
Well, if you have a craft that is already has the capability to be anti-gravity, there has to be some type of power source within the craft itself.
Yeah.
But again, we're dealing with stored energy, and that is the big kicker, where something like the compact fusion reactor or some type of, I can't even say a chemical reaction, because again, you're utilizing chemicals as a fuel source, so they're going to be consumed.
Yeah.
So the only way you can have something viable is if you had some type of self-contained power source that required no input as far as a fuel source, other than when it was put together.
Yeah.
Much like this compact fusion reactor.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like, I don't know, because it says that it basically like the electricity generates the the two electrodes. When the particles are passed between it basically just charges the particles. So there's some energy in there somewhere. They didn't really get, in a couple of the articles that I read, they didn't really get too much into the details. There was a really detailed one that I just didn't read all the way through. I'll be honest. It was like a scientific paper. And I just hadn't had the time to read through it all. But yeah, so they send it through these two electrodes. It charges the particles, and the particles are pushed out of the craft, whatever it is, and that's what propels the thrust. So it doesn't require a propeller, it doesn't require an engine, it doesn't require any of the things that our current aircraft do, which is fascinating.
Well, the engine itself is the ion propulsion system. Yeah. So that is the thruster.
Yes.
Again, I don't know what the effects on the environment would be, spewing out a whole bunch of inert electrons. Yeah, electrons have to have either positive or negative, so that they're going to be
one or the other. Yeah, I can't remember.
And will it affect the environment around it as it comes out?
I don't know.
They don't concern about it. They don't worry about it. In space, because there's nothing that well. They said there are particles of oxygen and helium and hydrogen and whatever in deep space. But it's a molecule here, and maybe 200,000 miles is another molecule, and then maybe we don't have to worry about polluting space other than with space junk. I know it's a real dilemma on how we can go about and develop a propulsion system for air breathing operation, manned air breathing craft to move people around. So far the best thing we have is highly efficient turbofans made by Pratt & Whitney, Rolls-Royce, or General Electric.
Yeah.
And
what you were talking about with Lockheed Skunk Works, though, with the using inert plutonium, that's actually a really great concept, though, because then that kind of helps figure out what to do with the disposal of it. We reuse it.
Right. And about 90+% of all nuclear reactors used around the world use uranium versus plutonium. There's a few breeder reactors that we have that actually makes more fuel than it consumes, because it takes low-grade uranium and it bombards them with electrons, in the process, and that creates a new isotope, which is radioactive, which would allow for pretty almost like perpetual motion. But on the electrical part of it, again, electricity is transferred from a carbon source or a nuclear source or a water source, but it's not created. It's just transferred, and it's stored or transmitted somewhere.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have a pollution-free, fuel-free propulsion system unless you do something like the compact fusion reactor or something along those lines, where you're not requiring, because we're looking at processes that really go back 50, 80 years on developing batteries. I mean, batteries have been around, since for a long time, 100 years. Liquid hydrogen, they started creating that back in the early 50s when the space program was just starting to get big, and we were working to catch up with Sputnik in 57. And to transport it, they had their trucks pulled over a couple different times from the source when it was heading down to Vandenberg or to Edwards Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And these are huge 50-foot tank cars or trailers for transporting the liquid hydrogen, but they only had one set of duals in the back, and Highway Patrol is pulling them over, citing them for not having enough footprint. You're going to damage the roads, not knowing that hydrogen is our lightest element. And in reality, they could have gone with a single tire versus duals in the back, because it was that light. But just to keep people from gawking or whatever, they started using the four-wheel bogeyed trailers for transporting liquid hydrogen.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of energy to make it.
Yeah.
So you're transferring energy from coal or nuclear or water or gas into to be transmitted. Then it's going somewhere, and now it's going to be consumed as you're condensing hydrogen gas down to make and to separate and make a liquid out of it.
Yeah.
So it's like your electric cars we have today. The Leafs, the Teslas, and all the other the Volt. We don't have the infrastructure to support electric cars. California said, no gas-driven automobiles to be sold in the state of California starting 2035 or 2030. That's insane.
Yeah.
First of all, they keep shutting down power plants in California. I think San Onofre is now being decertified.
Yeah.
And it's just, I live in a new neighborhood here in Oro Valley, Arizona, which is north of Tucson. And we have good, reliable, we have the Palo Verde nuclear power station, plus Tucson Energy has gas-powered plants in and around the area. But the infrastructure cannot support it. I mean, California has already announced during a couple of the brownouts and blackout timeframes, if you have an electric car, we're asking you or we're telling you, don't plug it in.
Huh.
Oh, gee, that's great. Now I just went out and spent $70,000, $80,000, whatever it is, on a new battery powered car, and I need to get somewhere, and my battery's low. But I've just been told that we're having brownouts because of whatever, the wind, or it's been extremely dry. I can't charge my car. What do I do? I mean, one of the
it's crazy.
I mean, when I think about it, it just drives me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in the greater Los Angeles area. It may have been Pasadena. They were chasing a fleeing felon in one of their Teslas, and they're going bat out of hell, heading down Interstate 210 there out of, I think it's the Foothill Expressway. And about 3/4 the way into the chase, the Tesla says, battery low. Pulled over the side of the road. He's sitting there with his thumb in his ear. What the hell am I going to do?
Hilarious. Now, give us a second. Give us an hour or so. We'll be good. We'll be there.
Right. Well, I mean, and then there was a picture of taken in British Columbia. It's sort of not that probably due south of Dave Scott's hometown. And there were 25 or 30 Teslas lined up to use two charging stations in this.
Two.
Oh
my gosh.
And they were going to be, and again, you get stuck in traffic. Now, they just had a major pileup in Pennsylvania on the interstate. They had a brief snow squall. 20 cars were involved. But let's say you're on Interstate 80. You're heading over the Sierra Nevadas. You're going to go to Reno, or you're going to go to Squaw Valley, or you can go to Lake Tahoe, whatever. You're going up the interstate, and just right around the California state line, near the summit of Donner Pass, there's a major pileup, both directions, snowing to beat the devil. It's night. You have an electric car. You're about 50% charged. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be there for 10 hours or longer.
Yeah.
And it's cold. To use heat on an electric car, it's a direct short over the battery. You're shorting the battery, going through coils. The air passes through the coils, heats up, keeps you warm.
Yep.
So you're gonna see your voltage keep going down and down and down until you're out of power. Okay, let's say there's 200 cars in this area you can't move, and 50 of them are electric, battery-powered cars, and they're intermingled in between all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, now they clean out after 10, 12 hours, or maybe the next morning, they finally clear out all the damage and everything else. The road's opened up. And maybe some of the cars up front are electric.
Yeah.
They're dead. They're dead in the water. They can't move them. And it's just, what are you going to do? You're going to bring a truck with a big, gigantic generator on it. And you're going to go down, you're going to back down, you get to the first one, you're going to charge them up, they're going to drive off. There's just going to enough charge to get to Reno. So maybe instead of a 5-hour charge, it's a 20-minute charge. But you have 50 cars like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that's something they don't take in consideration.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I like the hybrid cars better, the ones that are a combination of the two, because at least you have the gas there for the backup, if you need it to kick in.
But hopefully, when the time comes to trade your electric car in,
Hmm.
they're going to know what to do with 5,000 pounds of lithium battery.
Yeah,
That's not recyclable.
right. That is
And
true.
it's the stuff is as deadly as the evil asbestos, which is found in nature,
Right.
and all the other carcinogens and other nasty chemicals that are out floating around. I mean, I'm 100% for finding an alternative to fossil fuels,
Yeah.
but until we have reached that point, and we're not even within 1 or 2% of reaching that goal,
Hmm.
because again, you transfer power, you don't create it. You just move it from one
Yeah.
place to the other, and it's consumed as it's being moved, and it's consumed when it's being stored.
Yeah.
And you can control some of it, but not all of it. I mean, it's the laws of nature, and then it's going to be put into another inefficient mode of converting the energy into propulsion, whether
Yeah.
it's turning a motor, a fan, or an ion system.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something that really hasn't been addressed. There's a lot of pie in the sky, and you keep seeing these new dictates that you cannot buy or cannot use a internal combustion engine. You can't transfer the title or whatever in some states, and it's heading
Oh,
in
wow.
that direction.
Wow. That's
But the
crazy.
alternative doesn't allow you. There's no real true alternative
Hmm.
because we don't have what it takes to support. Now, Tommy G asked me how far along did the CL 400 get to? They General Electric had a working Model 304 engine. I actually saw it. It was down at Warner Robins, the museum there at Robbins, Georgia,
Hmm.
and it was a working engine. And Lockheed had worked with the Dewars for storing the liquid hydrogen. There's a few places where the containment of liquid hydrogen didn't work too well, and it blew up, tore up the building. And you wouldn't want to be near it, because if you got splashed with liquid hydrogen,
It's not
whatever,
acidic.
yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they got as far. The proposal was it was a Mach 3 uh, speed is what they were predicting the CL 400 would go to, and it's the same environment as the SR 71. This was
Mm.
before they had finalized the work. They knew there was a requirement for a need for a high altitude aircraft to replace the U-2, which ironically is still flying today,
Hmm.
60 years later.
Yeah. Amazing.
And it's going to be flying them until through 2040. They
Hmm.
thought they were going to replace them with Global Hawk, but the Rolls-Royce jet engine they use in Global Hawk isn't sufficiently powerful enough to generate the power they need for the systems they want to put on there. But the U2S has those power requirements. And but they didn't build a test article to fly or try the CL 400, but they did run the engine. They did testing on the thermal insulation and the tanks used in that program. And then I think it got to a point where it it was going to be a huge airplane. It would be almost 300 feet long,
Oh,
275
wow.
feet long, a big one, and only carry just the crew up front. Everything else behind it is going to be fuel.
Yeah.
I mean, liquid hydrogen, even though it's very, very light, you need a lot of it to be
Hmm.
converted to energy to be able to propel, to move an airplane around it at any altitude or speed. So
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah.
Um, so I also read, and maybe you can, I haven't read what it is exactly, but they were saying that the F-35 military jets are going to be getting a new engine. New engine. Have you heard about this?
Oh, they've been talking about it since when they were still looking at the X-35
Yeah.
back in the mid '80s, and Pratt and Whitney got the deal for the F-35 engine, but
Mm.
General Electric has never really given up on it. So they have their F135 GE engine that they've been working on that possibly will give it, the F-35 additional thrust, lower the cost.
Yeah.
The F-35 is a big airplane, and it's a monster motor.
It's a stealth craft too, if I remember right.
It's a fifth generation low observable.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
But it's not if they're carrying a lot of external stores. It's not, it's not a low observable, but in its stealth mode, it is a low observable. The thing about the F-35 from people I know that fly it, I can't tell you what it can do. All I can say is it can do so much more than the public is aware of. It says it's not really an airplane. It is an information node. It has sensors all over that airplane, and as it's flying through contested airspace, it's just sucking in all the electronics transmission.
Wow!
It's just deciphering what they are. If they're a threat, if it's a threat, it goes into this, this place, whatever it may be. Maybe it's transferred off via satellite or data links. Was it Link 16 and some of the other secure communication protocols to various agencies, whether it's threat radar. One of the reasons why when we go in there with they call it STAD airplane, suppression of enemy air defenses. One is to take out the surface to air missiles, but two, it's waiting for them to paint you with radar and then lock on with their weapons radar. And as soon as we get that information, we know what frequencies to jam unless they're frequency jumping. So it's one thing to go in stealth where you can listen to that stuff and not be painted, and they don't know you're there.
Yeah.
It's the other thing. It also allows us to gather all that information. But on the other hand, it does the same thing for the enemy. If we're coming in and we're using jamming systems or we're immune to certain frequencies, and all of a sudden they can realize that through their gathering of information. Then it puts a low observable aircraft in a little bit more vulnerable. But the F-35, I'm not a big proponent of it.
No.
A friend of mine who just recently passed away, Pierre Spray, one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. I was having dinner with him and Jim Stevenson. He did the book, the $5 billion Misunderstanding, the Navy A-12 program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a debacle and a half. There should be some admirals in prison for whatever, but that's a different story. But the Pierre felt that the F-35 was too much of a compromise on what was really needed, way too expensive. And I saw the X-35 Ironbird at Palmdale in August of 1990. It's now 2022.
Right. So 32 years later.
The airplane is still not fully mission capable. There's software fixes in there that they haven't finished. Their block 4, I think it's 4F or 4J is their newest iteration of their software capability. When it first started flying, they had not gotten to the point where they could release weapons or they could use their gun. So they wanted that. They had to get. And
is this a fighter jet?
Yeah, it's a fighter.
Well, that's kind of useless.
Well, there's very little. There's very little dogfighting in today's aerial combat.
True. Yeah.
Most of the shots are beyond visual range.
Yeah.
Using the AIM 120.
Yeah.
Or the AIM 220 is the newest one. It's just, I think it's an AIM 120 airframe with lighter electronics and a more efficient, more powerful booster.
Yeah.
So
So what do you think? And I know they haven't come out with it yet, but we only have artist renditions from the last that I saw. So let's talk. So these, we're talking, 5th generation military jets. What about 6th generation, the next generation air dominance? This looks like a cool plane, like no tail. It's a crazy looking plane, like from the artist renditions I've seen. What do you think of this?
Well, they're working on a couple different ones. The B-21, the Raider, is a 6th generation.
Mm-hmm.
It is. There was one that was photographed over the central part of the country in November. I think it was November 2018. I have a picture. I have all the raw data off of it.
Was this the one that you pictured? You took the picture of?
No.
Something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was flying in formation with a B-2.
Mm.
And it was flying above and in the contrail.
Oh.
So you really couldn't see it from the ground. But all of a sudden, this one is pulling off to the side. The B-2 is heading one way. The B-21 is heading another way.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy sent it to me. And he said, can you play with it, see if you can get anything out of it? Because the airplanes were at 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
So I put it in Photoshop, and I hit color correct. It changed a little bit. I had contrast, changed a little bit. I hit tone, and all of a sudden it went boom. I went from a light blue with a little bit darker light blue image to a dark blue sky and a gray airplane with contrail. And you could tell it was not the B-2 because it only had 3 trailing edge points. And because it was flying in formation with the B-2, I know what the wingspan of B-2 is 172 feet. And you don't have a sharp edge at 30,000, 35,000 feet. It's soft. But I took the dimensions of the B-2 in inches. I said, divided it by 172, and then I went in and measured the distance, the wingspan of this other craft.
Yeah.
And then multiplied it by what was left, the 172nd part. And I came up with a 125 to 130 foot wingspan airplane. It appears that there are 4 engines, but I just read something today saying there's 2 off-the-shelf engines, the same engine that the B-2 uses, which is also the same engine the U-2 uses.
Wow.
It's the F118 engine.
Yeah.
And it had the same artwork on the gear doors as the B-2. There's a stripe, and it has, WM for Whiteman, and it'll have the squadron or the wing or something, defenders or something underneath. And the top profile is similar to the original configuration of the B-2, which was supposed to be a high altitude penetrator only.
Yeah.
And then at halfway through the program, they said, no, we want to do high-low to get below radar. Well, you have a stealth airplanes. Yeah, but it's not that stealthy. I mean, it's
it's an unstealthy stealth.
Yeah. And I don't know why they wanted to go high, low, high.
Yeah.
You come in low, and then as you're coming up to target, then you go up, drop your bombs, and then get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
The side profile appears to be almost identical. The mode line, the side view mode line looks almost identical to the B-2. You really have to know the airplane to know if it was different.
Yeah.
And with the gear doors, with the artwork on the gear doors, the same as the B-2, a casual observer at Whiteman Air Force Base
would think that's what it was.
In Knobnoster, Missouri. What a name. Where do you live? I live in Knobnoster. Well, I had that too, but penicillin got rid of it,
Oh my God.
It could have, the B-2 and whatever this other craft was, if it was a technology demonstrator or if it was one of the pre-production airplanes. And they say they're working on airframe number 6 at Palmdale. And that airframe number 1 is in ground testing, which means it's off the production line. Yeah. It's in a hangar, and they're going through all the steps. They're cycling the landing gear, running the hydraulics and such. Boeing had when they built the B-2, I think a little over 70% of the Northrop Grumman B-2 was built by Boeing.
Mm-hmm.
Northrop was the systems integrator.
Yeah.
But they did the cockpit, the leading edge, and the control surfaces. Everything else was somebody else, primarily Boeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then they used to refer to it as the Boeing B-2.
Some people have it, especially if they know how much of it they built. I mean, they built the aft center fuselage, the outboard wings, the inboard engine nacelles were built by Vought LTV out of they're in between Fort Worth and Dallas, I think, off of I-30. But it is. I just lost track where I was going. I hate that. But the B-2 and the B-21, they're the same family. And the thing, and probably the one advantage of giving it to Northrop is there's stuff that's proprietary to Northrop Grumman as it pertains to the B-2 and some of the systems or whatever.
Yeah. And
they may have had some, boy, if I could do this again, I know I would do it differently type of explanation on some of the systems that they have that they're using on the B-21. But a casual observer looking across this huge ramp area, and we're talking a couple square miles of ramp. Every B-2 has its own hangar.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 20 of them. Yeah. One of them is always at Edwards, and 4 are usually going through depot at Palmdale. So if you have 100 airplanes, 20% of those airplanes are always going to be in overhaul, and then you have another 20% that's going through phase dock. You want to come up and say hi? Come on, baby.
Oh, Miss Scarlett.
Come here. Come on. Oh, it's a sweetie dog. Come on. You coming? Oh, come here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's see that beautiful face.
Let me see my baby.
There's
my baby. That's my baby.
She's so cute.
She's our German Shepherd rescue.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
Yeah, she is a beautiful girl. And what do you want?
She just wants love.
Yeah, she wants me to play, and it's past 5:30, so she knows. Hey, you're supposed to be in the other room. So I'm gonna just go for a second. I'm gonna let her in the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, sweetie, let's go. Oh.
Yes, I agree. I know that little face. German Shepherds are so pretty, so pretty. When I was in my 20s, I briefly had a stint as a dog walker in between jobs. And one of the dogs that I used to walk, her name was Donica, but she was a black German Shepherd, and she was the smartest, the most beautiful dog ever. I was telling them about when I was in my 20s, for a brief moment, I had a stint as a dog walker, and one of the dogs was a black German Shepherd. And she was beautiful and so smart. So
they are. I had 2 purebred German Shepherds when I lived on Whidbey Island, north of Seattle, and they could spell.
Wow.
I mean, and they could read your mind. I could be sitting watching the tube without moving. I would consciously make sure I didn't change my facial expression or anything, and said, I have to comb Charlie Brown. Now, he was a 130-pound purebred German Shepherd, and he was long-haired, much like Scarlett. And I had a little female named Bear. And all of a sudden, Charlie Brown would get up, his ears would go back, his head would go down, his tail go between his legs, and he'd run off to his crate, which is his cave or his den.
Yeah.
And I'd go up to him and I get him just by the nape of the neck, just pinch him a little bit. Come on, Charlie. And you just hear him, oh shit, I gotta get combed again. But he knows I'm the alpha, so he's not gonna give me any static.
Yep.
And I'll get him in a corner, and I would fill up a big shopping bag, primarily of his down, and I could vacuum at the time I had a wife that wasn't a good housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
So I dusted and vacuumed every day because you have to if you have a two big hairy German Shepherd dogs. And I could vacuum the whole house. I could comb both dogs, dust everything. 10 minutes later, I walk through the living room and I see a little puff of
dog hair.
It's angel fur. As it's floating around.
That's so
and
funny.
Rosemary never wanted to get a dog.
Mm.
You can't love a dog. She changed that story really fast.
Yeah, Scarlett, change your mind on that one.
Oh yeah, and you have to go, and they are too damn smart.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I could think about doing something, and they would know what I'm thinking. That was the scary part.
That's so crazy.
And they know when you're down. They know, when Rosemary had her aneurysm here 4 weeks ago, brain aneurysm, and she collapsed. Scarlett was beside herself. She knew something was terribly wrong, and I mean, she was a good girl about everything, but she just knew that something was wrong.
Yeah,
and thank God I didn't lose Rosemary because that'd have been terrible.
Of course.
Yeah. And then Rosemary said, well, if something happens to me, what are you going to do? I said, well, first of all, nothing's going to happen to you if I have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I said, would you sell the house? I said, not as long as I have Scarlett. This is her forever home.
Oh.
And I mean, she was a street dog for her first year, her first 14 months of her life. Ugh. She wandered the streets of Phoenix.
Oh my God.
They picked her up on 4th of July, which is when they pick up a lot of dogs because they get spooked with all the explosions.
Oh yeah.
And she had absolutely no human involvement up to that point. And they brought her to a place called Heidi's Village. And it was the group that rescued her was Better Days Rescue out of Phoenix. And they're just the most wonderful people, and they've gone out of their way to rescue dogs. And normally they don't go outside the greater Phoenix area, and we're 100 miles from Phoenix. So they came down to do a home study, and because I've had German Shepherds before, that sort of pre-qualified me. And then after Vicky had a chance to interview us and talk about the yard and everything else, she said, I said, well, if you follow me up to Heidi's Village, we'll introduce you to Scarlett.
Yeah.
So it was the first time. It was the first time they'd ever placed a dog outside of their preferred area. But it was because I knew exactly what I was getting myself into as far as the dog is concerned. So
yeah.
I just love them. But we were talking about airplanes and the F-35 and stuff like that before Scarlett came in to say hi.
Stole the show. Yes, she was beautiful. Yeah. She was beautiful.
The F-35 is an incredible airplane. The new engine they've been trying. General Electric is out of Cincinnati, and they're also out of. I think they have offices in Lynn, Mass, but they're primarily in the greater Cincinnati area. And Pratt and Whitney is primarily out of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And they've been, the congressional delegation in Ohio, and they have some pretty strong senators there. It used to be John Glenn was their senator for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
They were trying to get that engine certified as a backup engine for the F-35. I know it went through all the trials and it was eliminated for whatever reason. You never know why someone gets a contract and someone doesn't. So they're hoping to reinvigorate, because one of the problems with mission capable rates of the F-35 is the fact that there are a lot of them that are not mission capable because the engines are not operating, and they're broken or they need to be fixed or whatever. And the pipeline for some of the parts and stuff like that has been slow to respond. Plus, with the all the garbage with COVID, there are a lot of Air Force and even civilian technicians that that supported the F-35 engine program.
Yeah,
they've rather than get the jab or whatever, they've quit. Or they've just I don't want to put up with this. I'm getting out.
Yeah, well,
and they haven't filled that pipeline.
Yeah,
and it's really criminal. And again, as far as Pierre Sprey is concerned, he would like to see the F-35 program just go down the toilet. We need something better.
Yeah,
and so
I found this picture of the next generation air dominance that I was telling you about. Hold on, let me see. I can share it with you because it just looks like a really cool plane. See what you've probably seen this, I'm sure, but this one right here.
Yeah.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, it's an artist rendering. It doesn't depict what a real low observable would be.
But it's cool.
The inlets themselves would be a huge radar cross section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When it comes to low observables or stealth, is the you can't have any edges where a signal can go in and go straight back to where it came from.
Yeah.
The tenet behind low observable aircraft is you have a transmitter. The radar would hit the surface, and because there aren't any flat surfaces, there aren't any edges or seams to catch. It hits and bounces away from the transmitting site.
Yeah.
One of the ways they were able to shoot down, and it was pure luck and stupidity on the mission planners' part, when they shot down the F-117 in Kosovo back in the 90s, it was because, one, they flew the exact same mission profile, altitude, track, and everything else 3 nights in a row.
Wow.
That is pure stupidity on the mission planners' point of what their job was. And the other thing, I heard that the weapons bay it's a centerline bomb bay, and this would be upside down if I was upside down. And when the doors open, they open this way.
Yeah.
And they open real fast. The bomb drops, and they close real fast. And what they say, one of the reasons they were able to pick up the F-117 is because one of the bomb bay doors, something malfunctioned and didn't close all the way.
Oh, wow.
So you have this huge radar spike.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that was written in Aviation Week. The other thing is, if they use a real strong transmitter, I mean, powerful.
Yeah.
And they have receivers all over the country. They're all tied into an integrated network. You're blasting out the energy to try to paint a low observable.
Yeah.
It's hitting them and it's bouncing elsewhere. But it may be being picked up by the remote receivers that goes into to a central processor, and it tells you where the F-117 is, or where the F-35 is, or where the B-2 or the B-21 is. Now they said the B-21 has more of an all aspect, and that shape there is a low observable.
Yeah, this was another one that they were talking about.
Right, and they flew one of the technology demonstrators. I should remember the number. It was one of the X planes.
Yeah,
they literally took off the vertical. They flew it with the vertical tail, and then they took it off.
Oh wow!
And it was a technology demonstrator that we were dealing with the Germans with. It was sort of NASA and the German aviation industry in developing a tailless aircraft. Yeah. Of course, the B-2 has no tail.
That's true. That is true.
The Navy.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Navy A-12 didn't have. The X-47, the new was it the newest Boeing drone that they're going to use for refueling?
Yeah,
has no tail, and they were able to to get around that primarily with computers.
Yeah.
On the B2, the main landing gear doors are reinforced. I mean, they're most you open up a landing gear doors, there's sheet metal, there's some internal structure to keep them from flexing.
Yeah.
But you can really, I mean, you could actually on either side almost touch your fingers, just on this, just skin thickness in between the ribs and stuff on the landing gear door. With the B2, it's like a solid door.
Wow.
So it's aerodynamic, and it's designed to it protects itself from being damaged from side thrust or whatever. But at slow speeds, the landing gear goes up and the gears stay down, and that is your vertical tails at slow speed. At slow speed.
Interesting.
Now I flew the B2 simulator.
Oh yeah.
That was a kick. I didn't think I had been to Whiteman for 2 or 3 days. This is my last day. And I had been at the LO shop, which is a low observable maintenance hangar. And they had 2 B2s in there with every single panel open.
Oh, wow.
He said, you can look, but you can't photograph. So after that, we went over to the kennels where they have the attack dogs. And they said, you want to put a suit and have Norbot, I think was the name of the German Shepherd.
Yeah.
And the handler, I said, I have German Shepherds, or I've had German Shepherds. I know what they're capable of doing on the hind legs of cows. Because I go to the commissary and get half one for Bear and one for Charlie Brown, and you could hear them cracking the bones.
Oh my gosh.
So I prefer not to be attacked by a German Shepherd.
Yeah,
I'll watch, even with the suit. Yeah,
that would have been my answer too. I'd be like, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. Thank you much for that.
And then from there, we went off to this this nondescript building off, quite a ways off the flight line. And I didn't see the sign because we came in on the side of the building. You needed it was a cipher lock to get into the building, which is not unusual.
Yeah.
And we go upstairs and they told me, so well, no cameras, no recording devices at all allowed in the building. So I said, my cell phone's in my car.
Yeah.
And it's back at the at base at the Whiteman Inn there at Whiteman Air Force Base. So I didn't have to worry about that. So they're doing something, and then they go to another door, and it's like a vault door.
Yeah.
I mean, it's reinforced. Oh, wow. They had a cipher lock. They open the door, and it's like The Price is Right. Here's this long hallways, and there are 3 doors. Wow. And it's almost a comical gag when you think about it. Indoor 1, yeah. Yeah. So we go to the first door, and my escort opens the door, and there's the B2 simulator. I thought they were just going to show it to me, and I said, "Oh, this is cool."
Yeah.
So said, "Follow me." So we go in there, and the instructor pilot sits in the right seat, and I'm just standing there. He said, "We're going for a ride, and you're in the left seat."
Oh my God.
I said, "You mean I'm a fly it?" He said, "Yep." I said, "I'll set everything out, but you will push the throttles forward, and at 127 knots, you start pulling the stick back." And he said, and the airplane will pretty much fly itself. It wants to go into the air. So 127 knots, we become airborne. Wow. And to move the throttles forward into military power, we're flying out. I sort of get the handle of it. And when you go to bank or go one side or the other, you have to you turn the stick this way, but then you have to go back. I keep hitting my microphone. And because the airplane wants to slide, continue to slide over there, so you have to overcorrect and come back. Yeah. So you're gonna go back and forth like this. And I said, "Well, what are we gonna do?" I said, "Well, we're gonna go find a tanker, and we're gonna do an air refuel."
Yeah.
And NGO said, "Manned flight or reconnaissance aircraft are numbered." No, well, they'll always be manned aircraft. Computers are good, but nothing can beat a set of eyes and a brain. Yeah. So I'm coming up on the KC-135, and I'm a numbers person. I remember numbers. I look at a serial number of an airplane, military aircraft. And I can tell you if I photographed that aircraft before. And there were 827 KC-135s, and I photographed over 500 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And I can, this is over 50 years. And I can, I could tell you, well, I photographed that one before. And we come up to the KC-135R, I look at the tail number, and it was the correct tail number for a KC-135, which pleased me.
Yeah.
And then as I'm coming up to the boom position, I could see it was just a shape of a face of the boom operator. Couldn't tell if it was male or female, but it was the feeling was very, very real.
Yeah.
And then it took me like 2 or 3 tries to finally get into the envelope and steady enough so the boom come in and connect. And we connected. And then we did some other stuff. We did some low level. We did some high level. And I'm coming in for my first touch and go on the B2.
Yeah.
And you're coming down. I'm coming down the glide path. He said, keep the horizon right here, and just follow it. Follow the glide path down. And we're 18 miles out. And I can't remember George's last name. It's not important. One of the instructors up in the booth, the control booth, decided, okay, I'm gonna test his reflexes. I'm gonna detonate 6 or 10 hydrogen bombs in and around Whiteman Air Force Base, and all of a sudden you get a flash, and the screen goes black. Because if you're in a nuclear environment, you wear a helmet.
Yeah,
it looks like it's designed by Star Wars.
Yeah,
and the guy who designed it is a big Star Wars fanatic. I mean, it looks like one of the stormtroopers.
Oh, that's cool.
And they have a special glass that during a nuclear detonation, this thing goes opaque within a few nanoseconds.
Oh, wow.
So you're not going to burn the back of your eyes up by the flash. Nice, yeah. And then as the flash dissipates, then the screen starts, you can start seeing through it again.
Yeah.
And I look and I see these mushroom clouds all over the place.
Oh my God.
And this was 2000, I think it's 2015 or 2016. It's 2015.
Wow.
And I said,
that's so crazy.
I said, I would, said, can I drop one? Hydrogen bomb, that is. and the IP said, no, it's a classified system. But if you were going to drop it, where would it be? I said, 1600. He said, stop right there. You can't say another word. Everything in here is recorded. I said, okay. He said, but I know who you were talking about. So
that's hilarious.
Well, I started about Enzo. I started out as a boom operator in 135s, and I was 17. I couldn't buy cigarettes legally. And I lost 3 friends in 2 mid-air collisions, one crash and 1 mid-air collision. And these are guys I had known since kindergarten. And I said,
oh my gosh.
I said, I don't want to do this. I look back now and I kick myself in the butt, but that wasn't my destiny. My destiny is to go the path that I went.
Yeah.
But I actually worked on hose and reel and KB50. KC-97Gs and KC-135As. And my school was at Shepherd. I know eventually they moved it to Castle there near Atwater in Merced, California. But again, I could look at a KC-135 and I can tell you if I photographed it before. And out of the 827, 527 were photographed by me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
I wonder how many planes have you photographed ever? Do you have any idea?
When I was going through my divorce in 1990, I also lost my job. It was a recession. I was overpaid, undereducated, and I knew too much about the marketplace. So I was not a viable candidate to be employed.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and I went on active duty for 121 days. But I just lost track where I was going. I hate that.
I asked you how many planes you had photographed.
Oh, yeah. When I sold my slide collection, I had about 150,000 Kodachrome slides. And so, does that answer your question?
That's a lot. That's a lot, yeah.
Out of the, was it 5,082 F4s built around the world, I photographed about 3,000 of them.
Wow.
And that was the thing. You had you had a book that you would check off serial numbers of the particular aircraft that you were fond of. And I like all the special purpose 135s, the RCs, the ECs, and such. It's just it's such a diverse airplane. I remember I had my first chance I was at E-Systems, which is now L3 Technology. It's out of Greenville, Texas, east of Dallas. And a buddy of mine was a line supervisor there, and that's where they take all the big safari programs. That's where they're worked on. And they were just finishing up. We had Cobra Ball. I think this is the RC 135X. I think it was called Cobra I, and it had a big hog nose like all the RC ones have, and it had a huge camera, much like Sophie, this 747 SP that NASA's flying to do observations in space, and all the RC 135S Cobra balls that were used to track and monitor Soviet missile launches and detonations. And it was just a neat thing. And I have the hats for all those RC 135 programs, and I don't wear baseball caps. I must have 100 of them. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I give them to my son. He never has his hat off.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. He has an endless supply.
Right. So
that's awesome.
But it's, the 135 is an incredible airplane. I mean, it started flying in 55 or 54, really. And it's just it starts out with Dash 80, which was the Boeing Boeing KC-135 technology demonstrator, which they decided to it was a wasp waist. It wasn't the round fuselage of the 707. It had a sort of a wasp waist to it, and which is more difficult to build. So when they went to the Boeing 707, they went to a larger fuselage and a longer fuselage. But it's I had a chance to see Dash 80 next to I think one of the last 707s to come off the assembly line. They were right next to each other, and you can see all the familiarities to them. And they have I think Boeing took it over. There was a museum at Payne Field in Everett, Washington. It was called The Future of Flight. And they were trying to figure out how to put an unusual aircraft out front to get a lot of people's attention. And my suggestion is there's a KC-135 or a C-135A, which still had the J57 engines, not the turbofan TF-33s, but the J57 engines. He said if you were to get that and you were to take, I think, 8 or 10 feet off the forward fuselage length, you could paint it up like Dash 80, and then you can mount it upside down in front of the future of flight to replicate Tex Johnson's. He did a barrel roll over Seafair in the prototype in Dash 80, the prototype 707. Bill Boeing got on the horn and fired him right on the spot. And he didn't do it in front of all the dignitaries. Water burner. Coal burner. He didn't want to condemn him in front of all these airline customers. Yeah. And they were all a little bit hesitant because the Comet had problems, and I worked on a Comet also. Oh wow! And Douglas was working on their DC-8, and I guess all of the CEOs from all these various airlines said, if you have an airliner that can do a barrel roll, you sold me. I know that airplane is put together well. Yeah. So all of a sudden, here he's condemning Tex Johnson for doing the barrel roll, which he practiced for a couple months. He went up fairly high altitude and did barrel rolls at high altitude just so he knew he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Kit Carson was their photographer. He's in the airplane. Now they have 4 seats, and everything else is test equipment in the back of the Dash 80. And he had gotten up to go to the bathroom. And when Tex started his barrel roll, he was keeping 1G.
Wow.
So Kit didn't know that we were going inverted. He looked out the window, and he's looking straight down at Lake Washington. And he said, "Oh, I got to get my camera." So the shot of the airplane upside down out the window over Lake Washington. It was from Tex Kit Carson. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it's that's sold the airliners on the capabilities of the and as Andrew said, they sold a ton of airplanes. I mean, they did the same thing with the very first Blackbird.
Oh, really?
This is at Area 51. They had already flown it twice.
Mm-hmm.
They first flew it unofficially on the 25th of April. I think they flew it on the 27th. Mm-hmm. But on the 29th is the first official flight. So Jimmy Doolittle was there, the head of the CIA, and about 25 dignitaries.
Yeah.
And Lou Schock is the pilot. He had cleared everything with all of the engine people, the avionics people, the fuels people. He said, as long as you maintain 1G, you're fine. So he's going in front of the reviewing stands. He's fairly low, and he goes into his barrel roll.
Oh my God.
And Kelly about had a heart attack. And he got down, and boy, Kelly was furious. And and Lou said, if I didn't think I could do it, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And you had nothing to worry about. But he quit. He flew the airplane 13 times, and he had what they call an unstart at 80,000 feet and about 1,800 miles an hour. And the airplane starts going back and forth like this. You lose one engine, it unstarts. The other one, this one starts. Now this one unstarts.
Oh my God.
It just keeps going back and forth for about 45 seconds. And he couldn't see the instrument panel. He knew what the problem, he knew he had to do to correct it. He had to manually, with switches, move the inlet cones forward. Now they start transitioning back at Mach 2.4, 2.2, and they go back to 28 inches. And it's these cones are like 12 or 15 feet tall. I almost got one for myself.
Oh my gosh.
I was painted green and put it out in my yard, and when I lived in Whidbey, but
awesome.
I had no way to get it to the island. They were just going to, the museum flight was going to just give it to me.
Oh my gosh.
But so Lou he's holding the stick between his legs. He has his hand on the instrument panel, and he's balanced, and he pushes his hand, and he knows where it's at because he laid out the cockpit, and he goes down and he flips the manual, moving the inlet cones forward.
Yeah.
Which stops the acceleration and evens everything out. And his head was banging so hard in the cockpit, he cracked his faceplate. So
oh my gosh.
If he'd ejected at altitude, he'd have been dead.
Oh my gosh.
Because the thing would have blown out on him.
Wow.
So comes down, they find out what the problem is, and they tell him, okay, you're going to go refly the same test card. And Lou said, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not if you can't assure me that you fixed the problem, I'm not going to fly this profile. He said, yes, you are. And he says, no, I am not. And I quit.
Good for
him. He walked away. And when I interviewed him years later, I said, well, what'd you end up flying after you left the program? He said, I flew the most incredible, fastest, highest flying manned air breathing airplane in the world. And once you've done that, you can't go back.
Yeah.
So there was no way I could go to work for the airlines or whatever. So I mean, everything about that program. And again, I am blessed to have been exposed to it when I was 18.
Yeah.
That was 59 years ago.
My goodness.
And 58 years ago. And it's just, it was my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it, I wouldn't know what I know today, and I probably wouldn't be on this program, or I wouldn't know any of the people that would listen to this program, or any of my friends that have podcasts and such. In 1968, I wrote Lockheed Skunk Works, Air Force. I wrote to Beale Air Force Base, where they operated. I wrote Secretary of the Air Force, Secretary of Defense. I wanted 10 to 12 8x10 color glossies of the Blackbird in the air.
Yeah.
And those were not classified, but
yeah.
their official policy was not to cooperate.
You're right.
So because they didn't cooperate, I started digging. The more I dug, the more I found out, the deeper I dug. So over the course of the last 50 years, from a historical point of view, not necessarily engineering point of view, but from a historical point of view, Ben Rich even said, no one knows more about the program than me.
Yeah.
Because if you're in it when they were putting together, you couldn't ask questions. You couldn't ask your neighbor who you also know worked, hey, what are you working on? Because as soon as you did that, you're a suspect. And suspect, if you're a suspect and you're dealing in an area where the required security clearances are top secret and above, then they'll pull your clearance, or they'll put a flag in your clearance, which means you can't work.
Yeah.
If you can't work, you don't get paid. And if for some reason they pull your clearance, and that's one of the hooks they have on people working on black programs. Because typically, if you're deeply embedded in a black program, whether you're a wrench turner, or whether you're one of the engineers, or one of the flight test people or support people, you're allowed to be in that marketplace or that area of employment because of your security clearance. And if all of a sudden you start asking questions and you become suspect, all they have to do is put a flag. They don't have to pull your clearance, put a flag up. And all of a sudden, you're not welcome anywhere.
Wow, that's crazy.
And if you did something really outrageous, maybe they just pull your security clearance. Now you can't even go to McDonnell Douglas or to Boeing or to Grumman, all of them that used to be here, Fairchild Republic, Fairchild, then Republic Aviation. And so that's how they have managed over the years to keep so much of it classified. And the same goes for the UFO community. I can't imagine what level clearance Bob Lazar had. I know he had a Q clearance, but then it's compartmentalized and it goes up from there. Got a friend of mine who's he said it'll take 2 years to get his Q clearance. He's waiting to be cleared for a real fun project if he gets it.
Oh.
And I won't mention his name or what he's doing because it'll be really a barn burner if it happens.
Wow.
Yeah. So
interesting.
So that's how they control the dissemination of information, is the fact that they have you by the shorties. You can't. You can go ahead and do it, but when you come to work on Monday, you're going to have a box with all your stuff in it, and you'll be escorted out with armed guards.
Wow.
You don't want that to happen. That can ruin your whole day.
Yeah. And then when you go out, you can't tell people what you've been doing.
And and a number of people at Lockheed who worked on the F117 program, for example, said, I could never tell my wife what I was doing. But when my book, I had the very first book on the F117, and I co-authored it with Bill Sweetman. And he was with Interavia, and then he was with Flight. And then he ended up being one of the news people at Aviation Week. And a number of years ago, he left, and he's now at corporate headquarters for Northrop Grumman in DC. So, but we wrote the very, very first book on the F-117. We sold 67,000 copies of that book.
Amazing.
I mean, for a guy who'd never written a book before, that's pretty good. Bill had been writing for quite a while. That's why I worked with him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just But I had Lockheed guys coming up to me when I would go to a Blackbird reunion, the same guys who were working on the F-117. They said, I got your book. And for the first time in 10 years or 5 years, whatever it is, I said, I can't, you go to his wife or go to her husband, whomever. I said, I can't tell you what I did at the Skunk Works, but why don't you read Jim and Bill's book? And maybe that'll explain why I've been gone and where I've been going to.
Wow.
I can't tell you. What is a TR-3B? That is a craft that's been seen all over the planet. It is, we believe it is man-made. It uses a type of propulsion system that apparently uses a special compound of mercury, lowered in temperature down to near absolute zero, and it's spinning. And when it gets near absolute zero, it changes state and it becomes anti-gravity. And the triangle shape is just one they adopted. On each corner of the triangle are the propulsion units, the ones that move you forward or sideways. And they've been reported all over the planet.
Yeah.
And people say, why, you can see through them. You could, one of the videos, a young lady took it at Contact in the Desert 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah, what's her name? Alana, I think.
Yeah,
top of my head.
Yeah, she has a pretty name, but and she said when she shot it with her cell phone, and it was just 3 lights, and they were moving, but they were connected.
Yeah.
When she downloaded it or actually blew it up on her screen, she realized that those 3 lights, all of a sudden, you can see the triangle through the clouds.
Yeah.
And as it's moving, you can see the stars behind it. And said, well, how in the hell did that happen? Is it transparent? And the United States Air Force in particular, probably NASA and a couple, some of the other spook agencies, have been working on active camouflage since the 1950s. They actually tried it during World War II, where you'll use bright lights to more or less blend in with the background.
Yeah.
I know when I was up on the top of both Freedom Ridge and Whitesides overlooking Area 51 on this one particular night, I knew they were going to find something, and they got searchlights and they aimed them right at the top of Whitesides that we were at, or when we were in Freedom Ridge, and you can't see anything. I mean, if you ever looked into a carbon arc searchlight, that's really bright light.
Yeah.
And they'll just shine the lights and renders them invisible. You can't see anything that's going on.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
see, Logan says, what about using electricity like the Philadelphia experiment?
The Philadelphia experiment was something that went terribly wrong. I haven't read up much on it, other than the fact that there are too many people that were affected to say that it really happened, to say that it didn't. Because apparently when they changed state, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But when they came back, there were people that were halfway embedded in walls and steel bulkheads, and it was really quite horrific. So and that was some type of electricity is a real interesting means of transmitting energy.
Yeah,
it is energy. What can I say? I mean, that's not transmitting. It's energy, and it's used in a lot of different ways that we haven't. I don't think we figured out all the ways to use electrical propulsion.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
And I'm a big fan of SpaceX. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has my Blackbird book on his desk.
I know, that's awesome.
This is per his secretary. So his right hand woman or man. He said when it came in, he was walking by and they just pulled my book out of priority mail. He says, "Is that for me?" And Jen said, "Yes." He opened up and says, "Ah!" And apparently he just sort of hugged it, and said, "This is on my desk. No one can touch it."
That's awesome. I love it.
And I sent it to him as a per the announcement of his son being born, and he named him A-12. And they said, "Well, you can't name a kid A-12," so I came up with some other name. But his favorite airplane in the whole wide world is the A-12 Blackbird.
That's awesome.
And I had an A-12 Blackbird in Minneapolis for 15 years, and I've been over every square inch of it. So I figured, what harm could it do? And I sent it to him. I did the same thing with Jeff Babion, he retires on April 1st. I've been there 5 years now. He's the head of the Skunk Works. And a buddy of mine was still there at the Skunk. No, he'd already retired. This is my friend Steve. And he said, Jeff Babion's favorite airplane, I think, is the Blackbird. I said, I got to send him a book.
Yeah.
So the 2 days after he hired on, the book arrived at the Skunk Works, and I was tracking it. And within an hour or so of it being delivered, I had an email from Jeff. He said, "You probably didn't know it, but the Blackbird is my favorite airplane in the whole wide world." He said, "I've never seen one fly." And I never saw my first one until a couple of years ago. I saw it at either Edwards or Blackford Air Park there at Palmdale.
Yeah.
And he said that is, no one touches my books, down in my man cave. And then when I sent him my 75 years of Lockheed Skunk Works, he said, "There's 2 books in my man cave that no one can touch. They're both authored by Jim Goodall." So that just tickles the heck out of me. And I know who the new replacement for Jeff is. And my buddy, who retired after 34 years of the Skunk Works, he said, "You send him a book, it'll do you well," because he loves the Blackbird as well. So
well, who doesn't? Blackbird's an amazing plane. It's amazing.
And especially, I was 18 years old when I saw my first one. It was March 10th, 1964. It was 3:15 in the afternoon. I can remember it like it happened at 3:15 today. I mean, it's the sound, the looking at it, the whole bit, taking off, flying over, looking down on it. And I joined the Air Force because I love airplanes. I wanted to be around really neat airplanes. And at Edwards, they had B-58s flying every day. They had all the Century series were flying. They were flying the brand new F4. It was actually a Navy airplane that they modified to work as an Air Force airplane. And it was sort of a dream come true to go to Edwards and then to see the Blackbird, because I went there to support 3 programs, the XB-70, the YC-141, and at the time a classified program, which was the Blackbird.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
I am bringing 10 to 20 of my Blackbird books and 7 or 8 of my 75 years of the Lockheed Skunk Works. So Enzo, I will save a book for you.
Yes, me too. Me too. I want one.
And I don't make much in the book, so I do have to charge for them. And I am retired, but I think you'll enjoy every bit of it, and I will autograph it. Best way you see, any way you want me to autograph it. That's awesome. And I mean, this is ironic as hell. I have been asked to give a presentation on the history and development of the Blackbird to the officers and senior NCOs at Beale Air Force Base, the home of the Blackbird. I said, well, shit, there should be, everybody should know about the Blackbird. And then I realized, no, the last Blackbird left Beale on March 9th, 1990. So there is nobody at Beale that's ever seen a Blackbird fly.
That's so crazy.
So I'm going to give a presentation at the base theater. Depending on COVID restrictions, it'll be either 150 or 300.
Wow.
Yeah, people.
Crazy.
And
yes,
and I can't sell any books there because of whatever it has to do with military regulations.
Yeah.
But they're going to buy. I think they're going to buy 10 of my Blackbird books.
Oh, awesome!
And then they're going to give them out as raffles.
Oh, that's awesome!
And I'll get an autograph them. But nice. I will have a whole slew of my books.
Yay!
I know I probably have to order some more just to make sure I have enough.
Yeah.
Because they never. I mean, they're not going to go stale. I mean, it's
no.
And I'm hoping, I haven't even looked. I just got my newest shipment of books on my 75 years of the Skunk Works, and I had to leave photos out of 2 programs that I really wanted to put them in. I had the photos, but one was the program called Senior Prom. It's a stealth cruise missile. It looks like a baby F-117.
Oh, wow.
And in the 1995, 1996 timeframe, Ben Rich gave me a box of slides. He said, these aren't classified, but don't share them until I've been dead at least 5 years.
Oh, no.
So I didn't. And they've been in Aviation Week, but I was told when I sent Lockheed my layout, and he said, if we have the little airplane, they won't even say the name on the internet. The little airplane, we can't have it on our property because it's still classified.
Oh, wow.
It's not classified secret. It's probably classified confidential or classified proprietary for proprietary reasons.
Interesting.
But he said the customer will not allow it to be published.
Wow.
But my 75 years of the Skunk Works book is going in its 3rd printing.
It's
and
amazing.
they were going to include that. They were going to include the RQ-170, the Beast of Kandahar, and Senior Ice, which is their competition for the B-2, that Northrop Grumman one, and I'm going to include those.
Wow.
And I started chatting. It's your responsibility to separate us. We'll talk until the sun goes down. So I'm really good at that, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm one that I don't think I've ever run out of words. I can always come up with something. So.
I was going to say, I can't be selfish, I guess. I can't be like, no, and so I'm talking to him because I get to talk to you every week now. So I'm going to have to share you with everyone, I guess. I'll do it begrudgingly. I will do it. Okay. I love Enzo, so Enzo can have a chat with you.
But I will have my books, first come, first serve. I'm not going to be staying at the Gold Nugget. I'm either be at Nellis or I'm going to be down south of the Strip somewhere.
Nice, yeah.
And but I will be there. I'll be there with all smiling, ready to go.
Oh, I'm so excited! I'm so excited for Sunday too.
Yeah,
it'll be so much fun.
Oh yeah. And I won't be able to take my car since I only have about this much clearance on the road.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
And it only holds 2 people, so I can only have 1 passenger. But it goes fast.
Oh, that's right, because you have a Corvette, right?
Yes, right.
What year?
2010 Grand Sport.
Nice.
So it's a wide body.
That's awesome.
And tires, I just put new tires on. It was $740 for just front tires.
Oh my gosh.
Rear tires are a little bit more expensive.
Oh my gosh. I grew up, my dad had a 1972 Corvette Stingray.
Okay.
I grew up around.
I had a 59. Bought it for $1,500.
Yes.
I had a 65 Roadster.
Oh.
Around 365 horse. I had 67 rally wheels with red line tires on it. And I bought that for $7,000. Of course, this is a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And then 6 months after my brain surgery, I'm going through an intersection. I'm the 5th car to go through an intersection and go, bam, 50 miles an hour. They hit the passenger door of my Corvette. And the body just sort of exploded around me. And I had 34,000 miles on the car. And that was
my gosh.
And this is August of 86.
That's brutal.
I was pissed. And there was a cop on the corner, saw the whole thing. And the woman only had 6 miles on her brand new car. She had a brand new Dodge Diplomat, and she was looking at all the buttons when she ran into me. She ran a red light.
Oh my God. Oh, that sucks for both of you guys. Oh.
So she went to fight the ticket, and I'm in there, and the bus driver who saw the accident was there too. And she tried to say that it was my fault. And Mr. Goodall was not very pleasant with me. And the bus driver lady says, lady said, if it had been me, I'd have jumped out of that Corvette. I'd have knocked the snot out of you from here to St. Paul and back.
The judge said that?
No, the bus driver.
Oh, the bus driver. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And the cop basically said the same thing. He said, I couldn't believe it. I said 5 other cars had gone through the intersection when you decided to plow into Mr. Goodall.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, because it's your fault. You made her run that red light.
Right. So I went from my 65 Corvette to a supercharged 800 horsepower 57 Chevy Bel Air.
It was the 65 Corvette that got hit? Oh, that hurts my heart. That's my favorite year.
Yeah, and I had my 57 Chevy Bel Air that got trashed. And
oh my God.
I had to sell that because of one of my multiple divorces.
Mm-hmm. So. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. But I got 6 miles to the gallon. I mean, this was 800 horsepower small block with a 471 GMC blower with a big nitrous system on it.
Yeah.
And 2 850 double pumpers on top.
Wow.
And you get stuck in traffic, and that blower put out so much heat, even with a louvered hood. It started boiling the gas in the carburetor. So if it was above 75, you couldn't drive the car in traffic.
Oh my gosh.
From point A to point B is fine. Small gas tank, 12 gallon gas tank, but I only got 6 to 8 miles to the gallon.
Oh, so you can go like 2 miles and then you have to refill it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Sounds practical.
And back then, 110 octane gas was $3 a gallon.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a lot back then. Wow.
Oh yeah, it was almost 3 times of what, and it was leaded 100. It was racing fuel only.
Oh wow.
And I could tell the difference as I'm putting it in the car as the engine's running, and I could hear the sound of the engine. Mm-hmm. The tone changes completely when you put in high octane gas.
Yeah.
When I used to street race back in the 60s, I had a big block Camaro.
Yeah.
I had 2 375 horse 69 and a 68 and a 3 1/4 horse 325 and 67. And I used to go to the local airport and I'd get some 115, 145 avgas. Mm-hmm. And that stuff it was like putting a rocket in the back of it. And it really increased the performance.
Wow.
But you can only use about 2 gallons in a 15-gallon tank because it would literally burn the engine up.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So you get that and you shake the whole car. We should go to Golden Gardens. If you're from the Seattle area, you'll know exactly where that's at. Wow. And there used to be races there almost every Friday and Saturday night.
Oh,
there's no way the cops could catch you because you got to come down from the hill off 85th and come down and hit somebody on top with a CB. The cops are coming, everybody would disperse. And then around the bend where the near the Ballard Locks, we'd have somebody. Yeah. So if a cop's coming the other direction, they'd radio us and we'd disperse. They were never able to catch us. And some jackass decided to race the other direction and ran off. And I think some kid got run over and got killed.
Oh, God.
So that all came to an end.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good old days. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. So my goodness, an hour and 50 minutes.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We can talk. We can talk.
Yeah.
I love it.
So what are we going to discuss next week? Do you have an idea?
No, I don't know. Or is anything burning on your mind? Or we can see if maybe. Well, we can see when we got to see when Michael can come on. Michael Schratt, because he said he was going to be willing to come on and hang out with us one night, so that would be fun. But
I'm gonna be with Michael next weekend up in Phoenix. He's coming in for something, and then the following weekend, Dr. Greer is putting something big together.
Yeah. And
Michael John DeSocia, who only lives 2 minutes from my house, walking 2 minutes from my house. It would Michael Schratt, John DeSocia, and myself are going up there, and we're going to be interviewed a part of his disclosure project.
That's cool.
And to answer, to respond to Enzo's comment, Michael Schratt is the cat's meow. I mean, There's nobody like him.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one that spends the resources and the time that Michael has for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And he gives me way too much credit because he said he started doing it because Jim Goodall did it.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know how valid that is, but I'm flattered by his comment. And he's I think that the absolute world of Michael. I tell him I'm proud of him.
Aww.
If he was, like he's my kid, and he's the same age as my kids. So I said, there's no one could have done it better than Michael's. So he's his book. I see, I have it right here. I think I showed it before.
Yes.
Dark Files. Dark Files.
Yep. I just have it. I'm looking through it. It's awesome. Really cool.
If you have an opportunity, it's on Amazon. You go in there, book by Michael Schratt, or you can just say Dark Files, Book 1, Pictorial History of Lost, Forgotten, and Obscure UFO Encounters. Mm-hmm. And the thing I love about Michael is everything he talks about, and we're talking about thousands of events, he has documentation to support what people saw. Military reports, police reports, firsthand reports, photos, drawings. The day it happened, the people sketched it out, and he has spent a ton of money over the years because he always annotates his specific events that he's going to present at a conference like the one in San Francisco that you were just at. Yeah, he's going to be in Denver in July. I'm not, because I was at the one this year or last year, I should say. So I may go the following year. And it is Tommy G said the book is a great book. It is well worth having. Yeah, and I mean, it wants you to get more. Yeah. And Chris said, he was amazing. And he does. I mean, because he knows his stuff so well. But he goes out. He spends his money every weekend going somewhere, interviewing someone, or working with an artist to create original artwork. I mean, it's not something that you put together with a crayon, right? This stuff is beautiful artwork, and he's had a couple of different artists. Mark McCandless used to do stuff for him, and for Mark, he's not with us anymore. Yeah, and it's a shame. I used to visit him every time I went up I-5 going to Seattle, at least once a year. And last time I saw him, he was in a dark place, and that was the last time I saw him. And it's just a shame. And he's sorely missed. He was an incredible artist. Yeah. But no one does it better than Michael Schratt. No, I mean, it's complete. There's no question when he's given his presentation, saying, well, he's sort of full of it. It's his own opinion. None of it's his opinion. It's everything he presents in his book, and when he gives a talk, it's all based on fact and supported documents. Yeah. I mean, Michael has 40 or 50 4-drawer filing cabinets filled to the brim. Oh my gosh. With UFO events. Wow. Yeah. And he's later on, probably sometime this year, he's going to take a week's vacation. And and I'm going to join him for at least a couple of days. Yeah. And he's going to go to Roswell and go through their archives. And he said, oh my gosh, they had 150 boxes. And he made it through 3, I think it was. And he was there for 2 days. He said it was incredible. I bet. So he's going to have to do it during the week, because he went there on a Saturday. There was somebody there, but on Sunday, no one showed up to open up the library. So he was sorely disappointed. Yeah. Well, that's cool. I can't wait to hear what he does with all that info. Oh yeah. I mean, he has enough information and enough artwork to probably do 30 books. Sounds like that. Yeah. I mean, the same, the same quality, the same number of reports that are in book one. So this, his books, he said, well, I haven't sold very many. I said, Michael, first of all, you're not recognized or known as an artist. I mean, as a author.
Yeah.
Even though you've authored so many incredible presentations and such. Said, but the word's getting out.
Oh yeah.
People get your books. Oh wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
I need more, and it brings to life, and it allows you or the general public to actually have a piece of history in their hand that someone has spent a good part of his life researching, so it isn't filled with crap.
Yeah.
And there's some of the stuff out there is nothing but garbage and bull. Yeah. Not a lot of it. And a lot of it, it's people's imagination goes wild. That's not Michael. Michael's like Joe Friday from Dragnet. These are the facts. I don't want the facts, only the facts.
Yeah.
And that's what you have.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. It's just like a detailed history of UFO encounters and sightings, and it's amazing. And the pictures, like I think it was Enzo who said that the pictures really like bring it all to light because we like, oh really, here it is, they had add to these stories, help, because we hear the stories, right? We've heard a lot of these stories, but we're
a visual people.
Yeah, see the pictures,
at least I am.
Amazing.
Yeah,
me too. I love it. So good.
Yeah. So I've told him he has to do at least 10 books. So I'm not making any money. I said, I never made any money on my first book.
Yeah. But everybody knows Michael Stratt now. Everybody knows him. He will.
Yeah.
He's got to keep going.
And more and more people are getting to know him. And even though I just finished book number 29, if you break down, not counting all my out-of-pocket expenses, all my equipment, all my travel, food, lodging, wear and tear on the body, on marriages, the whole bit.
Yeah.
I probably made 2-3 cents an hour of my time, but I don't do it for a living. I do it because it's a passion.
Yeah. Or
as a couple of my wife said, it's an obsession. I said, well, I think it is.
Potato, whatever.
Yeah. It's, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And Michael's the same way. If Michael doesn't do it, and the sad part about it, there used to be a group of us. There was about 10 of us. We called them the Dreamland Interceptors.
Nice, yeah.
We had guys went by the Ayatollah. We have guys that go by Agent X. We have guys being called the Great One, and that's Stu Brown gave me that name. Stu Brown, he was with Popular Science and Aviation Week, not Popular Science and Fortune Magazine. Yeah. He's the Minister of Words.
Wow.
And then we had Zero, Jim Bakos, and just the list goes on. And this was all through the 90s, late 80s into the late 90s for about 10 years. And we are the ones who went out in the desert, and we are the ones that were the pathfinders on trying to find a way up the top of Whitesides Mountain. I went up there with John Lear for the first time in I think it was 89. Right after we saw the F117. And it's just, and half the guys are gone, are dead, unfortunately, of old age. And speaking of old age, I just hit another milestone yesterday.
Yes. Happy birthday. That's exciting.
Number 77.
Nice.
I don't know what in the hell happened to the last 35 years. I mean, for some reason, my brain is still in the late 80s, early 90s.
I get that now. I remember my dad saying that when I was a teenager, and he was probably about my age, I'm 45. And he said the same thing. He'd be like, you feel like your brain, you still feel like you're maybe in your like early 20s or mid 20s. He's like, and then you look in the mirror.
Yeah. In my heart of hearts, I'm either 15 or 35, depending on the circumstances. And most of the time it's 15.
That's so funny.
And I can find humor in almost any event. I don't care how tragic. I can look at it and I know it's sick, Thank you, Enzo. And again, I will save a book for you. If you want both of them, I'll make sure I save a 75 years of the Skunk Works and my Blackbird book. And I may bring some B2 books with me too. I don't know if I'm going to.
Oh, nice.
But, so that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
Well, wonderful. Well, I'm so glad that you had a nice birthday.
Yeah. And Chris, I may not look at it sometimes, but I'll tell you what, I wake up in the morning and I know, they named the cereal after me, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. I mean, I'm just, I'm Mr. Rice Krispie. I mean, I bend my knees, they go, I get up and I twist and I hear snaps and crackle. What the hell? Am I falling apart? Something fall off? Yeah.
You still have the dog pounce on you in the morning.
Oh, she does. All 60 pounds, she'll come flying on me. And then she starts nipping and biting me. And I'm, I put the covers over my head and she's still trying to get to me. And she's just the sweetest girl. So
yeah, she's so cute.
Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah. But we're having, thank you for Floor Audio. We're having thunderstorms tonight.
Yeah.
Right now Enzo won't be greedy. Just and I take checks or cash. I don't take credit cards. So, but I will have a bunch with me. I'm gonna order some more just so I don't run short.
Yeah,
because I can always use it. But I have my 75 years at the Skunk Works book is in its third printing.
Amazing.
It's a $70 book, and that is really amazing. And it hasn't been out. It's only been out just about right at 6 months right now.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So
fantastic. Well, it's the perfect timing. Everybody's getting interested in, of the crazy.
And it was a passion that I had to satisfy that passion of mine to do the Skunk Works book and do the Blackbird book. Mm-hmm. I spent 50 years putting the Blackbird book together. Pissed off a number of different people over the years. But like I say, to quote my TI from basic training, he said, Goodall, you have everything going for you but your mouth. And I live up to that description almost on a daily basis. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Me too. So we're a little over 2 hours. Is it time to go home?
Yeah, I think time to call it a night. It has been so much fun.
I want to thank absolutely everybody who's commented tonight. Everybody who's who will maybe be watching it at a different hour on YouTube. It is on YouTube, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's on all the platforms. Mm-hmm. And I thank you for your time. I mean, your time is very valuable, and we've managed to take 2 hours and 4 minutes of it, and I'm forever grateful. And I'm just absolutely delighted to be here with Lynn. I found her through Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio, and he's one of my favorite people. There's something about him, and when I met him. Mm-hmm. At not Disclosure Con, it was the MUFON thing in 2020. In 2020, It was like meeting an old friend for the first time. And very, very rare does someone come into your life that you feel that you've only known him for about a minute, but you feel like you've known him your whole life. Yeah. And I felt that almost immediately with Dave.
Yeah.
And I tune into him any chance I get. I mean, he's on late. Fortunately, I'm part vampire, so I'm up late as well. So, and I want to thank Chris for her nice comments. And everybody that's been on, that's come on tonight and make a comment when we are there. I thank you. I thank Lynn for thinking this was a good idea, that the two of us should sort of do a thing together.
Yes.
And I think hopefully it'll be successful. Hopefully we'll both have enough stuff to keep everybody interested.
I'm sure we will. And
with that, you have a wonderful week. It's going to be, yesterday, night before yesterday was 95. On Tuesday morning, the high is supposed to be 55. So we're going to have a 40-degree drop on high temperature.
Wow.
This is civil weather that we have this time, in the spring in southern Arizona. And there was a chance of snow.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, but we got it in the foothills here last week, and you're not supposed to have snow up there. So
that's crazy.
And Jim is how am I like an uncle? That I'd like to know. A good uncle or
a good uncle?
Almost like bad grandpa. That's what it is. Yeah. Or the bad Santa. I just love that movie. That's
hilarious.
The little boy. I mean, I was built like that. I looked like him when I was 11 and 12 years old. I was a little fat, chubby guy. So
funny.
But I thank everybody that's joined us. I look forward to spending another wonderful Monday night with Lynn and with all of you out there in Cyberland. And you all stay healthy. Keep looking up. And if you see something that you can't explain, and if you have a good camera, I mean, the cameras on cell phones are good, but they can't beat a good Nikon or Canon with a good high quality telephoto lens. I would love to see some images that are sharp, not a fuzzy ball or not a light moving on, and I don't want to discount any of the people who've done that, but I want to see some images where I can really tell what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And until that day happens, now I didn't mention it on the program. I mentioned it when I was talking with the Cousin brothers yesterday. There's a crash site outside of Glenwood, New Mexico. It happened in 2015. Something hit the ground, according to the FAA. Something hit the ground going to 3,000 miles an hour.
Oh.
And a recovery team was in this remote area for 3 days, cranes, earth moving equipment, everything else. And I went with Stu Brown, who used to be with Popular Science. We went back 20 some odd miles down these dirt roads. And there's no way a semi could go back in that area, or even an extremely long Suburban would have a hard time going around some of the hairpin curves.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna put forth an expedition to see what we can find. We have someone who has about a $25,000 drone with 4 or 5K camera capability, and they're certified. And then we're gonna do a grid pattern. We're gonna look at the whole area, and well, we can talk about recovery teams somewhat. Enzo's suggestion. So
yeah.
All right. All right.
Great.
And as they say in Hawaii, aloha, we're out of here. And I spent 4 years of my life in Hawaii before I moved here, so I can say that. Right? And it was a pleasure as usual.
Same.
And I will see you in Las Vegas for sure, and I will see you next Monday. Absolutely.
All right. Good. All right. Thanks so much.
Everybody take care. Have a wonderful week. Adios.